mom caught me crying. It was tough, but no, it is what it is. So.
That was Rudy Gobert's genuine emotion over missing out on the All-Star game, which was met with equally genuine derision by Draymond Green. Maybe easier to do for a three-time All-Star. There's really no question about where Dre stands at any given moment. Back in November, it was Kevin Durant who found himself in Green's crosshairs during a much-discussed conversation on the Warriors bench in an overtime game in L.A. What began as an argument about late-game execution turned into a challenge of KD's long-term commitment to the team. 3 months later, Green revealed much regarding the incident in his sit-down with our Roz Gold on Woody.
I don't have regrets. If I was embarrassed about anything, I was embarrassed to Kevin, not to anyone else. I was embarrassed, if anything, to him, by him. So how would he look at me would be the biggest embarrassment that I felt. To no one else, I really don't give a whatever anyone else thought. Because in that situation, the only thing that mattered to me was Kevin. Like, how does Kevin feel? What does Kevin think? How do I fix that with Kevin? It was never about anyone else, anything else, other than that. And so, if anything, that hurt me to know that that is a guy who, I have a great relationship with, who trusts me. And much more than basketball. Like, this had nothing to do with basketball for me. It was more so life. Like, this is a guy who has been through some things in his life that I know, that I understand, and we've went through some similar things in our life so we can relate, and we've shared those stories with each other, and then you kind of break that trust. That hurt me more than anything. Basketball is basketball. You figure that out. I mean, obviously we figured that out. It was more the life side of it for me than anything else.
KD told me yesterday, y'all talked, and I said, what did Draymond say to you that really stood out? And he said, actually, Draymond just listened. So what did KD say to you that really stood out while you kind of didn't say nothing, just listened to him?
I think so many times, we all think we got the answer. And like, I'm gonna say something to make this right. In that situation, I knew that there was nothing I can say to make that right. So how about I just listen to Kevin and what he has to say? Because that's the first step to healing this process, is him saying what he has to say and saying what he feels. I kind of said what I had to say. I had my opportunity to say what I had to say. I completely bombed it, but I said what I had to say, or whatever. There's really no space for me to say anything. It's a time for me to listen. And so I told him, just tell me what you gotta say. Tell me how you feel. If you tell me how you feel, then I'll say something. But I'm not just coming into this conversation saying, hey, like, no, you already talked, shut up. Like, shut up, I already said what I had to say. And so I think the one thing that Kevin said to me that stood out with me more than anything was, he said, so many times I see people say, Draymond's emotional. I see the coaches say, Draymond's emotional, and that's okay. I see the media say, Draymond's emotional, and that's just Draymond. And I've even heard you say, like, sometimes my emotions get the best of me. He said, but I'm not allowing you to use that excuse anymore. Because I've seen you locked in. I've seen you completely locked in during the playoffs and not get a single tech. I've seen not argue with any refs, not argue with anybody. I've seen you lock in, and you're not emotional. That's an excuse that you've used, that everyone allows you to use, and I'm not allowing you to use that anymore because I know you're much better than that. And that kind of hit home with me because it's real. Like, it's something that, by the way, goes, once again, like I said, in this whole process, it was life for me more so than basketball. That hit homes in life. Like, that hit, I can use that outside of basketball. And so if he said, out of all the things that he said to me, if there was one thing that I take away from that that's most important moving forward, is that.
Did you say, I'm sorry?
That's not important. That's kind of one of those things that Kevin and I talked about that, so there are some things that are said in that conversation that stays in that conversation. I think that is one of those things, but, like I shared the story before, like I don't mind sharing some things, but some of those things in that conversation stays there.
Kevin Durant said he forgave Draymond Green like moments after this argument took place. Is this a bigger deal to us because we can see it from the outside? We see guys yelling at each other, or is this the sort of thing that can fester with a team?
It can, it certainly can. Look, this group has been together in a lot of wars, a lot of battles together, a lot of pressure on them. And Draymond is a terrific player. He's a terrific team player because he's willing to give of himself. But at times, I've always watched and said, at some point, is he going to say the wrong thing and hurt the team rather than do all the good he does for a team? And that's one of the things that, you know, if you said to me, what would you like to see different about Draymond? Don't change anything else other than don't say things that are going to wind up affecting a teammate of yours where you've won championships together. And some people don't even get close to smelling a championship. And you guys have won multiple championships together. He came out, he had a hard time when he was asked, did you say I'm sorry? He had a hard time saying that on camera right now. You know, sometimes you just have to swallow your ego and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Right.
He said everything else around it, saying that he apologized basically, but couldn't come out and say on camera that I said to him, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
It's interesting because he expresses himself so well in so many other arenas, including with the officials, by the way. He's inching up on that magical 16 technical number. We're not even at the All-Star break. He's at 11 or 12 now at the moment. Golden State, by the way, rolling. They've won 4 in a row, 15 of their last 16. You might think of threes when you think of Golden State, but the Warriors have the top 2 most prolific mid-range bucket makers in the league between Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, and it's Steve Kerr doing what's most efficient for his team. You see here, KD is going to get the mid-range shot, and he's going to get it in a variety of ways. Here he's sort of in a post-up situation, just going to do a little turnaround jump shot here from the mid-range. He's shooting right over the top of virtually anyone that would guard him, which makes that a go-to shot for him. In this particular circumstance, KD's going to come down. This is just an awesome play, by the way. He comes off of the screen action, and then he just almost jab steps himself clear. But again, look at the contest, Coach. He's just going right over the top of that, and it's an easy shot for him. That is literally a layup for him. And here he's going to do it off the dribble. He steps back to a mid-range shot. And with everyone being all in on threes, finishing at the rim and free throws, one of the things that Golden State has helped them do is they've zigged when everybody else has zagged, and they're shooting mid-range shots.
Durant was 7 of 8 in the mid-range Sunday night against the Miami Heat. That's Joel Embiid ready to go against the Celtics on TNT at the top of the hour. We'll talk to Jim Jackson ahead of that one next. The New York Sixers stuck it to the Lakers Sunday, scoring 143 on 57% shooting. Joel Embiid led the way with 37. Magic Johnson took in the game courtside and made headlines discussing Ben Simmons and the Lakers' unrequited effort to snag Anthony Davis.
Did you feel like the negotiation that you had was a good faith negotiation?
No. We knew that basically at the end of the day, what happened, happened. And we knew that when we first started. So, you know, in terms of what happened. But hey, it is what it is. I'm going to say this again. Quit making this about thinking these guys are babies, because that's what you're treating them like. They're professionals. All of them. And this is how this league works. They know it. I know it. That's how it goes.
I was wondering if you enjoy watching Ben Simmons play.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He reached out to me, not to me directly, to the Lakers to find out if we can get together this summer. I said, hey, you got to clear it with the league. And if everybody, the Sixers sign off, we sign off, the league sign off, that there's nothing going on, but he wants to know how to play the position as a big guard, da-da-da-da-da-da, it's fine.
Well, if you've been following this, the idea of Ben Simmons getting together with Magic and the discussion of it has led many to accuse Magic of tampering, which would be not the first time, by the way. But the league clarified today with this statement, quote, we have concluded that Magic Johnson's statements regarding Ben Simmons do not constitute a tampering violation. The Philadelphia 76ers initiated the contact with the Lakers by requesting a meeting between Johnson and Simmons. Both organizations ultimately concluded that such a meeting did not make sense at this time. But in that context, Johnson's response to a media inquiry regarding Simmons does not run afoul of league rules. End quote. Sean Powell, also in compliance with the show here on Game Time, and joins us from Atlanta, about 2 miles away, in fact, as he continues to cover the LA Lakers. A lot of stuff going on here, Sean. This tampering thing took on a life of its own. Magic made his comments. Elton Brand attempted to clarify. Now the league. How is this story played with the team, if it's even been a blip on their radar?
That's really above their pay grade. I mean, Magic probably should just said, Ben, who? Who is that? I don't know who you're talking about. He just gave too much information there. It really was a big miscommunication. Look, there are a number of teams around the NBA who feel threatened by Clutch Sports, an extension of LeBron James, great relationship with the Lakers, and all of a sudden, of course, Ben Simmons is represented by them. And it's a tough look for a number of teams around the league who feel threatened. I guess Philadelphia felt threatened. I don't know why, because Ben Simmons is in a great situation in Philadelphia. I think he's probably going to be there for a long time. But in any event, I think it was much ado about nothing. It didn't really filter down to the players. It was, Magic Johnson dealing with yet another issue as far as, being a general manager and, speaking out of turn. But that's it. It didn't go any further than that.
All right, on the floor, the Lakers are 2 out of the final playoff spot in the West. Tonight, they finish up their longest trip of the season and head into the All-Star break. What's the outlook for the last 25 games after tonight for this team?
Well, I think they'll have to go into the break just to get refreshed and refocused. It's been a tough 2 months for them. They had LeBron James's injury. They had some losing streak. They lost to some teams they had no business losing to, the Knicks, for example. And they had the the trade rumors, Anthony Davis, and whether or not some players are going to stay and some players are going to go. So I think the All-Star break is coming at a good time for them. They can start anew after the break. But it's going to be a tough haul because they're going to have to go something like 19-6, 19-7 to reach 47 wins. Now, last year, 47 wins was the get-in mark for the Western Conference playoffs. That's when you had Minnesota and Denver playing on the final game of the regular season. And I can see something like that happening again with Sacramento right there, the Spurs right there. The Clippers were probably going to go south after that trade of Tobias Harris. But the Lakers with LeBron James, they've got a ceiling. Look, you've got LeBron James and you're going down the playoff stretch. And by the way, this will be the first time in a long time when LeBron James has had to play meaningful games at the start of April. He's going to have to put the pedal to the metal there, and he's going to have to play pretty much 36, 37 minutes. If it's going to be a tough stretch for the playoffs, he's going to have to play like an MVP.
Well, he led the league in minutes last year, playing all 82 games, and obviously at this point it's a difference of whether he's on the floor or not, because the Lakers were easily a playoff team with him and fell out without him. Sean Powell tracking L.A. on their road trip tonight here in Atlanta. Appreciate the time. We'll see you in Charlotte.
Anytime.
All right, taking a look at those standings as we referenced with Sean. There's L.A. sitting there, 10th at the moment, 2 back of the Sacramento Kings, still hanging around.
LA is actually 9th. Los Angeles.
I'm sorry, L.A.
10th.
Los Angeles is 10th.
That's
LA
not
is
even
9th.
a little bit misleading. That
No. LA is the Clippers. Los Angeles is the Lakers. You should know that at home, right?
Exactly.
Why don't you know that? Anyway, to the point on, let's get to the tampering thing first, because this has become a convoluted story. How would this come about typically, that there would be this sort of confusion about one party reaching out to another party about a player potentially getting together with a Hall of Fame player who happens to run a different team?
Well, fortunately, there's not typically this kind of confusion. And the way this would ordinarily work, I can just talk about the way I've seen it done in the organizations I've been with. Rich Paul represents LeBron James and Ben Simmons. Mm-hmm. Rich Paul calls me as the general manager of Philadelphia and says, hey, we'd be really interested in having Ben get to sit down with Magic and just talk about what it's like to be a big guard.
Pick his brain.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Elton, you say, you know, I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with that. Let me talk to some people. I'll get back to you. Or because Rich Paul represents Ben Simmons and LeBron James, Rich Paul tells LeBron Ben would like to talk to Magic. LeBron tells Magic.
Right.
Magic calls Philadelphia. We go from there. That's really how this goes. So it would be highly unusual for this to have been started by Philadelphia. And when you saw Elton Brand's first comments about this, he said, the Lakers asked us,
Right.
and we said no, and this was about a month ago.
And then he walked it back and suggested that Philadelphia reached out to L.A.
And the funniest part about this is there's no tampering involved, even if it's Rich Paul telling LeBron that Ben would like to talk to Magic. That's not tampering. We've become really concerned with things that have no bearing on anything else. This would be the NBA's equivalent of fake news to me.
Right. Well, and by the way, given the Rich Paul connection, there could be all kinds of tampering from player to player. It's not officially tampering because the teams aren't involved, but players talk to each other. This is not a secret. And if they wanted to conspire to get player A to team B, that happens all the time, Coach.
Come on, that's not.
My first reaction when I first heard this, I said, why right now? Why just coming off the trade deadline with everybody's name out there that was going to go here or there? Those guys are worried about not going home that night in the same city, and then all of a sudden this comes out. But then I thought about it for a second and said, wait a minute, maybe the intention was, will Magic be in Charlotte for All-Star Weekend? Could we get together and meet there and have a 2-3 hour discussion about how should I be a big guard in the NBA? So maybe that's why the timing was now. Does that sound too good to you?
I'm willing to buy that.
More importantly, if you're Brett Brown or Elton Brand in this case, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you allow this to happen? I mean, potentially, theoretically, it could benefit your player in the short term. On the other hand, that player, that Hall of Fame player, happens to run the LA Lakers.
I think I'm alarmed if I'm Elton Brand. My defense mechanism goes up right there, and I sit down with him and I say, what are your intentions and why? And when he tells me this is one of the greatest ever, I'd like to try and learn from him.
I don't care at all.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
You wouldn't have a problem with it?
No, none whatsoever. It's going to happen anyway.
Sure.
You might as well help facilitate it and benefit from it.
Right. That's fair. Completely fair. Are we done with the story?
I feel good.
Let's move on.
We're done? All right. We're done. I'm declaring this story over. We're just
I guess we're done with it.
I'll move on with
we're
our
done.
lives, can't we?
The Monsignor said we're finished.
More coming up here on Game Time Live. Draymond Green on that dust up with Kevin Durant back in November. And much more on the way.